My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. The first reading in today's Mass is from the Old Testament, from the book of Exodus. And we hear about Moses, a Hebrew child, and his people had been conquered and enslaved by the Egyptians. And as a way of controlling the Hebrews and punishing them, there was a mandate from Pharaoh that every male Hebrew child was to be drowned upon birth. Well, Moses' mother, in order to save her son, took a basket made of papyrus and she daubed it with a tar-like substance in order to make it waterproof and so it could float. And so she placed the basket in a riverbank and went off at a distance in order to keep a discreet eye on her son. And it so happened that, and now I'm going to read from the book of Exodus, Pharaoh's daughter came down to the river to bathe, while her maids walked along the riverbank. Noticing the basket among the reeds, she sent her handmaid to fetch it. On opening it, she looked, and lo, there was a baby boy crying. She was moved with pity for him and said, "It is one of the Hebrews' children." Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call one of the Hebrew women to nurse the child for you?" "Yes, do so," she answered. So the maiden went and called the child's own mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child and nurse it for me, and I will repay you." The woman therefore took the child and nursed it. When the child grew, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him as her son and called him Moses. For she said, "I drew him out of the water." It's amazing. The baby was not only saved, and then to later be considered Egyptian royalty, but also nursed and taken care of by his own mother. What a joy for his mom. She had faced the prospect of having her son killed, and then it happens that she will be able to take care of the child herself in the midst of wealth and security. And we see, Lord, your guiding hand through those events, through those circumstances. We see how you are guiding history. You're taking care of Moses. And yes, life will get complicated for Moses. God is going to ask him to do some difficult things that are way, way beyond his capacity and ability. But he's not alone. God is always with him. Always. And perhaps Moses himself will remind himself in those difficult moments of how God had always been protecting him. Her God had even protected him from being killed as a baby. Sure, his mother probably told him that. And this reminder and this reality that God is protecting him will give him a sense of purpose and mission, a sense of responsibility to respond to whatever God is asking of him. Even when he may feel like giving up on saving the people of Israel from the Egyptians, when it feels too difficult, when the Pharaoh does not want to give in, or when he feels like giving up on helping the people of Israel turn back to God, even though they betray him so many times. He doesn't give up, even though he is so clearly too small and weak for what God is asking of him. Wouldn't be surprised that he would remember those particular moments, and there are many moments in Moses' life, but those specific moments in which God helped him and cared for him, in which he knew God was with him. I'd like to highlight one moment when his prayer, the prayer of Moses, is filled with a sense of neediness, insignificance, almost despair. And it happens when the people of Israel have so many problems, and they keep coming to Moses, one after another, laying all of their burdens on him, complaining, how life is not going well for them, and they have all these problems, and he's just overwhelmed. He can't fix it all. He can't carry it all. It's just too much. It's too big of a burden. When Moses heard the people, family after family, crying at the entrance of their tents, so that the Lord became very angry, Moses was grieved. "Why do you treat your servant so badly?" Moses asked the Lord. "Why are you so displeased with me that you burden me with all this people? I cannot carry all this people by myself, for they are too heavy for me. If this is the way you will deal with me, then please do me the favor of killing me at once, so that I need no longer face my distress." And Lord, you will have mercy on Moses, and you will tell him to designate 70 elders, wise men, who will help Moses carry the weight and the burdens of the people. Once again, Lord, you don't leave him alone. And so, Jesus, I turn to you in this time of prayer, in this conversation with you, and I know you're by my side. And you and I, we can ask ourselves, are you or am I at a point of despair? Maybe we are now, or maybe we will be someday. Let us go back to those moments in which we know God was there, moments in which God revealed himself to us in a special way, through a deep sense of peace and joy, or through the love that we received from him through another person, or even in some cases through more extraordinary events that are difficult to explain or impossible to explain humanly, like, miracles. I think of Sister Lucia, one of the visionaries at Fatima. There were 3 children who saw Our Lady. Jacinta and Francisco were the 2 other ones, and they died quite young. They suffered a lot from their illness, and they died young. But Lucia would live a long life and encountered many difficulties, misunderstandings, mockery, even the disbelief of her own mother. When you read about Fatima, it's very tough because her own mom doesn't seem to have ever believed that her daughter really was telling the truth about Mary appearing to her, and how difficult that must have been for Lucia. And so with whatever the difficulty might have been, I'm sure Sister Lucia would go back in her prayer to those moments when Mary appeared to her, to the miracle of when the sun danced. If you don't understand that reference, then I recommend you read about the miracle that Our Lady did at Fatima on October 13th, 1917, the day the sun danced. But how she would go back to those special moments in which Our Lady revealed herself to Lucia and to Jacinta and to Francisco. Those miracles help us too. And so we turn to you, Jesus. We turn to our Mother Mary, and we ask you, Mary and Jesus, to help us be faithful and loyal to God, like Moses did. And also, Jesus, like you were loyal to God the Father in carrying out the mission, even though it was such a heavy cross. And Mary, even though you also had to take part in that cross, how you were also loyal and always did what God wanted of you. help us so that we may remain faithful, even in the midst of a cross that we may not want or particularly understand. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help to put them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.